Last week, we talked about Shohei Ohtani's $700 million contract. Before the contract was signed, his winter free agency took on a life of its own, including a phantom trip to Toronto. Well, folks, over the weekend, the Dodgers traveled to Toronto, including Shohei Ohtani, and he had this to say in advance of that trip. He said, "The impression that I got was that it was a really, really great organization. The fans are really good too. Love the city too. So I'm really looking forward to going to Toronto." Even these glowing remarks don't remove the sting of that phantom trip. And in fact, in his first at bat, Shohei was booed by Blue Jays fans. Shohei responded by doing this.
Done damage here at Rogers Center. On 1-1, high fly ball, deep right field. Shohei in Toronto.
Looking back on Shohei Ohtani's whirlwind free agency process, we've uncovered a Rob Manfred press conference when he caught wind that Shohei might end up in Toronto. In fact, he even involved the police. He was so opposed to the idea of Shohei in Toronto that he was convinced he had been kidnapped and that there had been a SHO-HEIST. Even the police got caught up in the drama of the situation and had this to say about Shohei's free agency.
The story is a sensational one, and one which probably belongs in a Netflix series.
Manfred launched a full investigation, believing that Shohei was stolen and put onto a flight bound for Canada. Throughout the interview, Manfred continued to refer to Shohei as Showtime.
Our investigation involves a stolen car.
Showtime. Showtime.
They were transported in the hull of an Air Canada flight destined for Toronto. This flight arrived at Toronto's Pearson International Airport.
Showtime.
They were offloaded from the aircraft and brought into Air Canada cargo facility.
Manfred's story was sensational indeed as he continued to pile on the details, which included a 5-ton truck and a forklift.
At 6:32 p.m., the suspect arrived at Air Canada Cargo driving a 5-ton truck. The suspect reversed his vehicle to the loading dock and exited the truck. A short time later, a forklift arrived with a container of gold
Showtime.
and loaded it into the rear of the suspect's truck.
Manfred personally contacted police to launch the investigation. When asked the approximate value of Shohei, it became clear that his knowledge of the US-Canada exchange rate was severely lacking.
At 2:43 a.m., Peel Regional Police were contacted and advised the load of stolen goods had been stolen. The gold was valued at approximately $20 million Canadian based on current market value.
Like Manfred, Toronto police believed there was no chance Shohei would sign with the Blue Jays and immediately increased the investigation.
Investigators conducted a video canvass going door to door and business to business, reviewing video evidence from surveillance cameras beginning at Air Canada Cargo.
Manfred and investigators followed the 5-ton truck, convinced Shohei was on board. But their pursuit came up empty-handed.
Surveillance and believe the truck took the following route after leaving Air Canada Cargo. Westbound on Britannia Road East. Southbound on Dixie Road. Westbound on Highway 401. We continued to follow the truck and checked each exit that Highway 401 intersects with. Erin Mills Parkway, Winston Churchill, Trafalgar Road. The truck does not exit at any of these roadways. This continues into Halton Region as the truck passes James Snow Parkway, and we observe the truck exit at Bronte Road and go northbound on Bronte Road. We continue to follow the truck northbound on Bronte Road. Eventually, as the truck travels north of Milton, it becomes more rural, and we lose sight of the truck.
Manfred initially panicked when he realized the truck had stolen gold and not Shohei Ohtani. When Ohtani later signed with the Dodgers, Manfred let slip just a little too much about his feelings on the signing.
But fundamentally, I'm happy with the system. I'm happy with the system because I see it as responsive to something that our research showed fans wanted.
That's going to wrap it up for this week on News and Notes. Let's talk a little fantasy baseball. Adam, where do we sit with the standings?
Here we are. Aaron, your two teams still in first and second place. Your 24 teams still have a nice little cushion there. And while my teams are in third and fourth, they've both been surging over the past week, making up an enormous amount of ground. And in particular, my top 24 team, which was in last place by over 100 points at one point, now tied for the third spot, with a lot of thanks going to my spotlight fantasy player, Ellie De La Cruz, hitting a couple home runs, leading the league in stolen bases with 17 already.
Steelers. De La Cruz goes. Ohtani throw down. There he goes again. 2-0 is called a strike. Bad throw. De La Cruz pops up. He can walk home. Ellie creates a run. It's 1-0. Runner goes. Pitch strike. Throw down. A little delayed. Safe. Third steal of the day for De La Cruz. Well hit to left. Ward can't get there. That's gone.
Wow, that is impressive indeed. My 2024 team continues to lead the pack. Consistency across the board. This week, it was a massive week from pitcher Zach Wheeler of the Phillies. Wheeler had 2 starts in the last 7 days, 13.1 innings, 16 Ks, just 2 hits given up over those 13 innings. Good for 52 points in 7 days.
Swing and a miss for Zach. And a strike 3 called. And a strike 3 called on the outside.
Didn't help him.
Strike 3 called.
Got him.
Swing and a foul tip. Real Muto hangs on and the inning is over. It's more like it. And he gets a strikeout to start this 5th inning. 8 strikeouts for Zach. 4.
Wheeler certainly had a great week. Aaron, let's talk a little strategy.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about the injured list a little bit. The injuries are piling up a little bit. Pitchers, hitters, we got broken ribs, we got all kinds of things happening. How do you make sense of your injured list?
You have to pay attention to your roster every day if you want to maximize your points. And one thing that can't happen is, as much as possible, you can't have injured guys on your roster. One of the biggest challenges is when somebody's day to day. Okay, you get a star who's day to day, because if you got a fringe guy day to day, you just swap them out. It's not a big deal. I recently have had Rafael Devers on one of my teams, has been day to day for like a week, and it kills your flow when somebody goes on the injured list. They've got it. You have, in at least on the ESPN side, you have 3 spaces that you can use for injured list. So use them, because when you put them on the IL, it frees up a roster spot. You can just add somebody. You don't have to drop anybody. So where it becomes tricky is you get more guys on the injured list than you have space for, and you got decisions to make. But Adam, tell me a little bit about, have you run into that? Are there decisions you're having to make?
Yeah, I'm having to look at how long players are out. I got to go look off the ESPN site at some times and look at when is a player supposed to come back. For example, I've got Cody Bellinger, who recently fractured a couple ribs, and I look on the ESPN write-up and it says he's out. Maybe he'll be back within the 10-day. He's on the 10-day injured list. Well, when you look at the average amount of time that a player misses with fractured ribs, it's 51 days. So the likelihood of him getting back is low. And if I'm not careful, then I'm looking at this 10-day IL, and rather than trying to bring somebody in onto my team that's going to help me, and think about replacing Cody Bellinger rather than just a stand-in for a little bit. If I'm not careful, I'm going to hurt my chances to move up in the standings.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of a sneaky strategy that I like to employ. Guys like Jacob deGrom, Walker Buehler, who started the season on the injured list, but they're coming back, is one of the things that I would do is if your injured list has some openings, pick up a Jacob deGrom and stash him on your IL, and then you can use them later in the year.
Yep. Hope you found this helpful, folks, for managing your roster, your injured list. Send us your tips and tricks for how you navigate the injured list.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.